Well, today is the day where we build this lovely man here. I did see a bunch of comments from a bunch of you guys on my last video recommending builds and teams or whatever, and that was super helpful. So thank you to everyone who left a comment on the last video. I know I could just go research things, but it's easier for me to ask you guys. Plus, it also kind of gets you guys involved in the video a little bit more. So after looking at all you guys' comments and doing a little bit of my own research, I sort of figured out how to build Wriothesley. I do have everything. We have all of these. I actually realized that I'm pretty sure these reset daily now, because they used to reset like every second day, but I farmed those things for 2 days straight, and I farmed all of them both days. But aside from that, we also have all of these, I'm pretty sure, or if not, we can definitely craft them. We have all of his boss drops, so it's just the cryo chunks, which are going to be a problem. In terms of talents, we should be pretty good. I have a lot of these, so that shouldn't be a problem. Weapons is going to be really easy because all we want is the Wriothesley, which is already level 90. So boom, there you go. Weapon is done. So let's start off with his levels. So there is level 80 and we should be good on books. So that won't be a problem. Level 80 is done. We're going to need 6 of these. That is going to be a problem. We're also going to need more of the mecha drops. Well, let's have a look. We don't really have anything. Let me buy some more of this. Now we can bring Wriothesley all the way up to level 90. Max him out, and there we go. Wriothesley is now level 90. Also standard pool, which I actually do have quite a few of. I don't know where I got them from, but I do have quite a number of them. So let me quickly spend all these. I'm not expecting anything because we did get that weapon last video, but maybe we get something decent in terms of 4 stars. Not really there, and we don't see another 4-star anyway. So now that Wriothesley is at level 90, I'm going to have a look at his talents. I'm pretty sure we just want to do the skill and the normal attack because they are the big ones, and then follow up with the burst somewhat equally, but mainly focusing on the normal attack and the skill over the burst. But I'm just going to try to get them all up because we should have enough resources to go relatively far. Okay, there is all of them now up to level 6. So now we're going to start needing these drops and the weekly boss drops, which I just realized we don't have very many of. I have not farmed this, so I could go farm that. Not that I really want to, but I probably should. So let's go quickly do that. But that now enables us to get his skill up to level 7. Not skill, normal attack and skill now, both up to level 7. And I guess we will do the burst as well, or do I want to put these two up to level 8? I think I'm actually going to get these two up to level 8 just because it is a little bit better. They are the main part of his damage. And I'll just need to farm weekly bosses more, but that's fine. We have 886 is good enough for now. And now it's just onto artifacts. We mainly just want crits and attack with a little bit of ER, maybe for burst and EM. I do have a decent amount of pieces already leveled up because I have quite a few Marichose pieces. So this should be pretty easy. He is running a crit damage weapon, so crit rate would probably be the best option. And I do actually have a solid crit rate piece there with some EM on it and attack percent with crit damage. So this could be very nice if it rolls well. And so far, I am liking how it's rolling. Let's see a crit damage. Okay, more EM. That's actually fine. I'm happy with that. So now we just need cryo damage because that will be the best one we could run him on. As for the cryo damage pieces, we don't have a whole lot. For the time being, I will just use the one with the most potential, which will probably be whatever we're lacking on crit-wise. God damn, that's a really... Well, hold up, wait. If we add this on, right? HP increases, decreases. Crit rate will go up by 12%. Max 3 stacks. There's a lot of HP increasing and decreasing because Wriothesley eats his own HP. Plus, we're probably going to have like either a Farina or a Siege Queen or someone healing. So I can guarantee you that will max out, which will be 36% extra crit rate, which will bring this up to 96.6. So we don't want any more crit rate on him. We just want crit damage. Actually, the other thing is how much EM do we have? 84. Okay, I think I'm going to run this piece because it has EM on it. And we do want to get him to as close to 100 EM as possible, especially if I'm using him in a burn melt team or like a melt team or something like that. We do want a decent amount of EM, so this will do. So I wouldn't mind if one of these last rolls went into EM, but we already have 80 something plus the 20, so basically we're already at 100, so that's fine. We can just load up the crit damage. Okay, no HP percent, not as great, but it's fine. So now we have 105 EM, that's pretty good, 25,000 HP, so we won't die as easy. 1600 attack with a 60 to 243. That 60 will go up to 96.6 over 243. I am running a crit rate circlet, and I could swap that to crit damage if I want, but then we'd only be at like 66% crit rate, and that's not really enough. Plus, we already have a ton of crit damage, and if I was to put him on a crit damage piece, we would now have like 280% crit damage, and while that is nice, it'd only bring him to like 70-ish crit rate, which is okay, but it would be nicer to have more crit rate than that. I will actually go put him back on the crit rate circlet for the time being, but we might change that depending on the team. So now let's actually get into the teams. I have sort of 3 options we can run for teams. Option number 1 is probably the one I might use the most, just because it uses the least amount of characters on the Neuvillette team, and that is a Burn Melt team. So Wriothesley, Emily, Chevreuse, or Linny. I'm going to say I'll probably rather go with Chevreuse though, just because she has more supportive ability, which will get some more damage out of Wriothesley. But Chevreuse is on a Noblesse, so it'll be better. And then Lynette as well. That's sort of the Burn Melt team. That is probably team number 1 I'm going to try. The second team is going to be just stealing Neuvillette's team. So Farina, Lynette, and Charlotte. And in this case, this would be where I would want to run Wriothesley on a crit damage circlet because we have double cryo. And in this case, it'll be obviously a freeze team. And if there is opponents that are frozen, then we get an increased crit rate. So in this case, I would run a crit damage circlet. This is probably the highest damage team, but it would mean that I'd have to get Neuvillette off his team, which I'm not super annoyed about, but I also don't love that idea because Neuvillette's team, which is the same thing, works very nicely and is very good. I would in this case, because Lynette is basically required for Wriothesley teams, I'd probably end up putting like Clorand on the Neuvillette team or something. Neuvillette can also do a ton of damage by himself, so I could just use this team and call it a day. And then the final team is Wriothesley, Sejuine, Charlotte, and Lynette, which is basically the same as this team, just leaving Farina to be used on the Neuvillette team. So I'm going to start with probably this team because it has the highest damage output, I'd imagine. And then we'll just sort of run through the teams and see what happens. I do need to probably swap this back over, but also this has 68 EM. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to. Even though we are on a team with double cryo and we're probably going to overcap on crit rate, that is fine because realistically, this team will be used mostly for bosses rather than the Neuvillette team because it's a bit more AoE focused, or can do more AoE or multi-target. And because we can't freeze bosses, the double cryo or the cryo resonance isn't super important, or it won't affect us that much, I don't imagine. I'm not really too sure, but that circlet he has is kind of too nice to swap off. It has a ton of EM, a ton of crit rate. Obviously, it's crit rate main stat and a ton of crit damage. It's kind of too nice, so I'm just going to leave it. Plus, it gets him like to 100% crit rate or thereabouts, so it will be very good and consistent for critting. This guy, I think, will work for damage tests. I'm not really too sure, but I've done a couple damage tests against this guy, so he will probably work, I'd imagine. So now let's go see what Wriothesley does. I have been doing some research on the attack combos and how he works because I never really understood how he works. But basically, we want to do a N5, N4 charge attack combo, I think is the best way to do it. So use a skill, normal attack 5 times, normal attack 4 times, and then do a charge attack because that will have reduced his HP enough so he gets the stamina free charge attack and does more damage, I think. And then we can use burst at the end of that rotation or whenever we have it up. So we'll see how this goes. I don't really know, but yeah, we'll see. And then in terms of rotations, I'd assume Farina, Charlotte, Lynette, Wriothesley. So let me go get Farina's burst up. We don't really need Wriothesley's burst at the moment. I would like to see its damage, but it's not as important at the moment. So now we do Farina to Farina's skill, do Charlotte. I probably should have done that first, but oh well. Do that one, and then Wriothesley, do that. 13k, 27k, and then charge attack 33k. That's some quite good damage. I was seeing like 13ks, 20ks, 27ks, 30ks, 33ks, all that stuff. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm kind of a bit all over the shop with the combos. I kind of just spam normal attacks, and then when I feel like he's done the right thing, I do a charge attack. But I sort of just look for that attack because then I know he's finished his set of normal attacks. So I'm sort of, instead of doing the N5, N4 charge attack, I'm kind of just doing an N5, N5 charge attack because it's easier to see that And because I have an absurdly high ping, it's kind of hard just to keep track of it. So I guess N5 charge attack works. I still get about the same amount of damage, and the buffs last for a long time anyway, so it's fine. So that was hitting about 33k, I'm pretty sure, off the charge attack was the highest I saw on that one. So now I want to do the same team again, but I just want to see how much his burst does because, you know, why not? I mean, I did get it up in that rotation. Like at the end of the rotation, I went from 0 energy to full burst. He does have 120 ER, which is not great, but it should be good enough with double cryo and Favonius, I'm pretty sure. Oh, okay, apparently not Favonius. What happened to your weapon? But we do have Favonius, so double cryo plus Favonius should be pretty good with the ER. Obviously, the burn melt team will be slightly worse because it won't have double cryo. I mean, I could use Charlotte on that team, but Charlotte will sometimes steal Wriothesley's melts, so I would probably not do that. So ER might be a little bit worse on that team, but that's fine. I'll just use this burst every other rotation rather than like at the end of every rotation. And then reduce your HP a little bit, we'll do that. Knock your HP down a bit, there we go, and then do burst. 18k, not horrible, it's not great, but it's not bad. And as you can see, we're up to 96.6% crit rate. So that team, about 18.5k on the burst, 33k was the highest I saw from the charge attack. So let's move on to the next team, which is going to be this one, just because it is very similar to the last one, just without Farina. So I'd assume the damage is going to be a little bit less, but it could be a viable option if we don't want to use Farina. If we say we want to use Farina on the Neuvillette team instead, because that team does do quite well. And then we do Wriothesley. There is one rotation. I see 12Ks. And big one does, I didn't see that, 14K. Yeah, it's significantly less, only 7K there. It is significantly less without Farina. So I'd say, oh god, lag. I'd say it is probably much more worthwhile to run Farina over this team. Yeah, like we're only really hitting like 15k off the skill, and a charge attack's like only the 18k. So it's a lot less damage. His burst probably isn't doing that much. There's no burst right now, but yeah, only 9k on there. So I will probably end up using Farina on this team over the Neuvillette team. But then that could also change with this team here, which is going to be the Burn Melt team. This probably won't output the highest numbers from Wriothesley himself, but in terms of the entire damage, it'll probably be a little bit better because of Emily and the burning she does. And we'll just see how this goes. I'm not expecting Wriothesley to do like as big of a damage as I said, but hopefully we should shred through the boss a bit quicker because Emily can do like 30 plus k. That being said, she is not on a leveled up weapon at the moment. What were you originally using? I would say Favonius, which, yeah, I think that's going to be the best for now. It's not great, but the other weapon is level 20 and I can't level it up because I don't have any of the materials, I don't think. Yes, indeed, none of them. It is open today, but I don't have resin, so oh well. I will farm that in the future. It'll happen, just not today. So this damage, especially from Emily, could actually end up being a lot higher. Let's see what a Burn Melt team does. Do Emily's burst, and then Wriothesley. 38k still there with the melts from the charge attack. 26k. That actually seemed to be really good, so I'm probably gonna lean towards this team, which would mean I could still use Farina on the Neuvillette team, and this team's still doing about that same damage. Actually, I think it was even doing more, to be fair. Like, I think the Farina team did 33k from memory. This did like a 38k. So to be fair, this is probably better to run this team, like in terms of Wriothesley's damage alone. So that works for me. It means I can save basically all the characters except Lynette for the Neuvillette team. And Wriothesley can have his own really solid team. Boom. Yeah, 32k, and his burst does, I think it was like 19k's in there maybe? Or was it 9k? I don't know, something. But Emily is still doing good damage as well. She does, you know, smaller hits off that one, like with her skill. But the burst does some good 30k sometimes. Obviously not now for some reason, but it normally does some good 30ks. And that 30ks could be significantly higher once we get her on a proper weapon. Because I don't think her crit stats are... yes, they are. Incredible. What build are you run? Okay. So I see what our problem with Emily is. Okay, I remember why. Because I was putting Emily on Deepwood because of DPS Clorand. Okay, that looks much better, and crit stats are much better. I might try to get a little bit more crit rate out of her, unless I want to swap off the crit damage circlet, which I think is probably going to be the best bet for now. Yeah, that'll do. So there's Emily done. I'm not going to go run that again because I've already tested Emily on this build and she did about 35k, I'm pretty sure. So now Wriothesley is doing 38k, was the highest we saw there on this team, with Emily doing 30k as well. We're hitting some pretty solid damage, and it should be a solid second team for Abyss. I could try Abyss in this video, because as you can see, we have managed to make it to floor 11, but it was barely scraping through floor 11, and I don't really want to try floor 12 until we can actually get comfortably through floor 11. Plus, I'm waiting for this to go away. This first half? No, thank you. I'm very much good, thanks. I will happily not do that. So the final teams for this account for running Abyss and doing the most damage, I think you guys can tell me if there is a better team I could use for everyone. But just from the testing I've done, this team is going to be one side of the Abyss, and this team or this team or this team or a variation of this team. Basically just Neuvillette, Farina, Charlotte, and someone else if I want more healing. If there's a certain type of enemy, I can swap out and put Clorand or Linny in there, or I guess if I wanted Fremine. So those are going to be our teams. So let me know what you think, if I should run any different teams with these characters. So with that being said, I think I'm going to leave it here. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked this video, go check out the Wriothesley pulling video we did last. And with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Good. Bye.